Hey guys, I'm going to be doing a little news update because a lot of stuff is happening right now in Starcraft. I'm going to be going through a few things, you could probably tell by the tabs, but I am not necessarily going in order of the news, but I got a lot of things to talk about. So, first is the smallest update. It's call to action for balance testing. They uploaded a new custom game called Deadwing LE 2.17, 2.1.7 balance version 1, and all it's doing is testing the Widow Mine as a decrease again. Now, this only changes the shield damage down 20 shields. So, I mean, it has nothing to do with Zerg, but it's going to be less effective against Protoss now. I really wish they dropped the base damage down a little bit, because they are still a little strong right now against Zerg. And okay, well, I'm going to move to the next one. This update from Cyclone says that the current ladder map pool is going to be reverted to the Season 3 map pool. And and it lists 4 different maps for the Season 1 ladder in January. I guess it's in January. Or whenever the first season is next year. But as of now, the map pool is currently reverted. So you can go use last season's map pool now, instead of the quote-unquote dream pool, which was a disaster, especially for Zerg. Now we can look at some of the new ladder maps. So they're planning on removing King Sejong Station, Overgrowth, Merry-Go-Round, and Nimbus. As far as King Sejong, that was a good Zerg map, but I didn't really play it anyway. So, I mean, it was an option that I could have used, as opposed to some of the new maps that might not fit Zerg too well. Overgrowth was removed. That was my favorite map from that season, which, it's a shame. I don't know if my win rate was very good on it, but next they'd taken out Merry-Go-Round, which I think is okay because they didn't take out the other 3-person map. So, I mean, they're basically the same anyway. Nimbus I had vetoed forever. It just wasn't a good Zerg map because there was a free natural, and that was just not good for Zerg. We couldn't harass it very well in the beginning of the game, stuff like that. Alright, so those are the removals. Let's look at the additions now. Expedition Lost. Let's see if we can zoom out a little bit. This map is kind of interesting. I'm guessing you start from right here and right here. And you can take this natural, and it's a fairly large ramp, so I mean that's okay. The weird part is when you get to the thirds, you can either take this third, which is quite a bit away, and it has two separate entrances, so it'd be hard to hold most of the time. Or you can break down these rocks where it's a little bit closer to your main base, but it also has 2 separate entrances, and then you just created a completely free entrance into your main if you're unable to defend. So that's kind of weird. There's also destructible rocks, or rock towers, I guess. So that's kind of interesting, but I don't think that anybody's going to use them at all, honestly. And then there's these 2 golds in the middle. They look fine to me. I mean, if you're able to hold one of them, you'd probably be able to hold the other 2. So, if someone were to get it, it wouldn't be. They would probably get the other one too, and just completely steamroll over the other person. Other than that, I can imagine like siege tanks being able to siege up behind the golds. Maybe even behind the third if you take that third. They say this is just a balanced map, but it looks pretty balanced to me. No argument there. But until we play it, I don't know. Alright, this map, what was it called? Secret Spring? This has a very small ramp at the naturals. There's a lot of open space up top though. I'd imagine that proxies will be a big thing there, and drops will obviously be a big thing there. The third bases though are really weird. It might be easier for Protosses to hold with like Colossus or something that could just step up and down, and Blink Stalkers. But there's another weird thing about this map, is that at the beginning of the game there's one entrance, or one pathway to get to your opponent. It's a very small pathway, and you can break down rock towers to kind of close it off. And the other two paths, like right here and right here, are covered with destructible rocks. So, I mean, this might be like a big air map. I mean, mid-game, I wouldn't want to fight Protoss or Terran when trying to get through this choke. That's absolute worst case scenario. I mean, it could be like a big macro game type of thing though, where you can take your complete side of the map. Even the golds. I can see the golds being actually not too bad to hold. Especially for like Terran with siege tanks or something like that up on the high ground. For Zerg though, I mean, if you can break down those rock towers, it takes a long time for like Zerglings to break down. I mean, destructible rocks. Sorry, it takes a lot of time for Zerglings to break it down because they don't have any range, and it's just kind of weird. So you'd have to get like Roaches or Mutas or something out on this map. So yeah. They think this is gonna give you a choice of being either aggressive or a lot more defensive. So they're interested in seeing the players' choices. Now let's look at this Vaani research station. Did we get the whole map on? So this is kind of weird. I imagine you start here and here, but you might also start like in the recessed portion. But I think this is just going to be a free natural. Now, while it's a free natural, this map is so open. This must be really good for Zerg. Look at this third. You can just harass it from whatever side you want to. And it's probably not going to be good for swarm hosts, which is perfectly okay. I don't really use swarm hosts. I don't mind using them, but I usually can't afford them. But these are also like, they're almost all 1 or 2 player maps. So, I mean, you're likely to get cheese just like in the Dream Pool. Just pretty much every game, but I mean, with the free natural, it would more likely be a heavier macro game. But another thing to talk about is these golds, there's 3 golds, and I think that's really interesting because there's an odd number. So if it really is like a really heavy macro game, someone is going to get that gold and someone else isn't going to get that gold. So one person will have the clear advantage if it comes down to that point. And that advantage might be Zerg because it's so easily harassable. Though there is this upper area where ranged units can shoot, and what comes to mind is, of course, siege tanks and Colossus. Being able to shoot up there easily. Also, the gases are in the middle, so they're like the primary target. So it's kind of weird. There's also kind of a lot of dead space back here, so airplay might be pretty viable. And there's also a watchtower in the middle of just everything. But I don't think that's going to help a lot because there's a lot of other paths to go through. So I think that's going to be a pretty good Zerg map. One that I'm probably going to keep open. We have Inferno Pools, which is pretty neat. This looks like a 4-player map. Here, 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 and here are probably the mains. I'd like to see another 4-player map that has random spawns, completely random. So, you have these, they're like medium-sized ramps to block off the natural, and small ramps at the main. I feel like it would be really difficult to take a third on this map. So this might be more of like a early game map you have to win by early game, or someone's gonna win. Depending on the spawns though, if you're like cross spawn with somebody, you might have an easier time taking like this gold or something. But horizontal spawns, it might be like definitely not. You're never gonna get that gold. And there's the island map, which of course is not so cool for Zerg. I like to get a nice from and take island maps sometimes in the 2v2 map pool right now. But yeah, it's too expensive to do that, really. So yeah, here's the complete map pool. Foxtrot Labs, which is a pretty bad map for me, personally. Catalina is that 3-player map that's currently in the map pool. And then we have all the ones we just talked about, and Deadwing Elite, which I think is okay. But, yep. Well, that does it for the new ladder maps. And finally, we're gonna talk a little bit about the dev update for Legacy of the Void. And they talk about the resource changes with the 12 workers and reduced mineral patches. They feel like harassment wasn't as necessary with small amounts of minerals in the mineral patches. So they kind of want to change that a little bit. Right now they're currently testing half of the mineral patches having 1500 minerals and the other half having 750 minerals. And gas at 75% of the total. I mean, I think this is better. I don't like the expansions mining out super quickly. Because it seems like it can get into like, you can be mined out with like 4 bases really quickly and you can still be on early tech. And I don't really care for that too much. I mean, you can go like you can mine everything out just having Ravagers. And that's it. So I like that they're kind of like adding in extra minerals. Taking away gas though leaves, I feel like it leaves Terran at an advantage with where they build mainly Marines or Hellbats or something like that. And they feel that this will increase the harassment in Legacy of the Void. That's basically it for that. They feel like starting out at 12 workers is a great time, and they feel that everything after that diverges. So they're kind of thinking about keeping that. Alright, so they talk a little bit about upgrades, and they want upgrades that can make an early game unit viable for late game. Like Metabolic Boost and Ghost Cloaking. And what they don't want is upgrades for late game units, like Yamato Cannon on battlecruisers, because it's not really like, well, is that player going to get that upgrade or not? They're usually always going to get the upgrade. So it's not like the excitement at the beginning of a game if somebody's going to get circling speed or just rush a ton of circlings or something like that. It's a pretty stupid example because people usually always get Metabolic Boost. They talk about the Ultralisk upgrade, where it's okay because people usually just get it right at the start and build Ultralisks, and they end up at pretty much the same time. They're also considering splitting up Mech and Air Upgrades again for Legacy of the Void, which I like because that just leaves, they're completely two different playstyles, with a lot of air versus a lot of like ground units like Thors and tanks, and it allows Terran to tech switch way too easily, and it puts a lot of stress on the other player to make options for them, because they're completely different options, honestly. So I think that's a good idea, but they're not entirely sure yet. They want to make sure Mech is still viable when they do that. So let's look at the Terran Changes now. What I get from this is that they're not super interested in the Herc as it is now. They changed the tech level to Armory. They're going to test it like that, and they're no longer going to give it splash damage. That was pretty much the only way the Herc was decent. So I mean, like, it's going to be like severely less useful. They made it no longer effective for the cost. I think that comes back to the splash damage thing. You used to be able to like just pull yourself into the mineral line and just kill a bunch of workers at once. So, I mean, that was very overpowered, and I'm glad they changed it. But I think they could have reduced the splash damage a little bit instead. Grapple can only target ground, I guess. The one interesting thing that they did add in was that it knocks the enemy backwards when they grapple. I can't find that being super useful, except maybe if it like grapples a tank or something. But if you're just gonna grab they talk about grabbing banelings, you're gonna push it back, it's not really gonna do too much, I don't think. And a Terran's energy, like APM energy, is probably going to be better spent on splitting and kiting the banelings instead. They don't want grapple to be super spammable, so I don't know how they would fix that. But good luck to them. They're reducing the Banshee's attack range back to 6 because they did keep the speed, and they didn't see a huge difference with the range. That's perfectly okay to me. They seem like they have too much range as it is, honestly. I wish they would decrease it to like 5 or something. Just because they get the speed upgrade that makes them faster than detection. Cyclone ability is autocast. I mean, that's very strange. So if you have like brood lords and zerglings or something like that, the cyclone is probably going to autocast on the zerglings when you would want them to autocast, or when you would want them to cast on broodlords. They think that autocast is just going to be for like a lower level league thing, and most pro players will set it not autocast. So this is kind of like one of those things where it's like just for lower league play. So I think that's pretty okay. And they know that pro players are gonna like turn off the autocast and use it manually, which is the way it should be used. I'm still a little confused on how the Cyclone works because the fan mod doesn't. I don't think it does it justice. Alright, let's look at the Zerg changes now. Lurker Siege range upgrade no longer has a hive requirement. I think this is a great change. It just took so much work to actually get the siege range upgrade. When it feels like it should have just had it automatically. So you'll be able to get 9 range on lair attack. About infestors, they found that aggressive mutation was really only good with zerglings because they're fast and they hit a lot. So having like a flat damage upgrade is best for the zerglings. I feel like it's probably pretty good for hydras too, but they think zergling damage needs to be better in the late game, which is probably true, but they say that they could just buff their tier 3 attack speed upgrade, which is adrenal glands. That's already really good as it is, so if it gets buffed, I think that's even better. They're considering removing the ability, giving it something else. So they're working on that right now. They talk about Zerg anti-air versus mass air strategies. This is a huge problem, and I talk about it a lot if you're on my stream or watching my YouTube videos. It's really difficult for Zerg to kill mass air. Hydras, they're a little too big to be fighting things, and they're a little bit too weak to get in close. So not a lot of them are able to attack at once. Fungal growth is a thing that could help manage it, but with everything that the Infestor had was nerfed, if you think about it. Infested Terran was nerfed, Fungal was nerfed, and Neural Parasite was nerfed. Not that that matters for Legacy of the Void, because they removed it anyway. But, I mean, it's just really hard to use Infestors now. So they're looking for new ways to fight mass air. They're considering giving an upgrade that does damage over time. Thinking like, if you guys played, I think it was in Starcraft 1, but it was also in Wings of Liberty, where the science vessel is able to irradiate an enemy, and it does damage to enemies around it. They're thinking of doing something like that, but they're also aware that people would just kill their own unit that was doing the damage. So they're thinking of ways to do this. They're thinking about putting this upgrade on Viper, but they're not even sure if Viper is the correct unit to put this on. I think it's a pretty good unit to put it on. I think what they could do, I mean, this is just my gold league level mind thinking about this, but they could have an upgrade, or they could have like an AoE cast on this stuff, and the more units that are around, the more the thing stacks up. But if you cast it on just a couple units at once, they're not even near each other, it wouldn't do barely any damage at all. I think that might be something good, where the enemy would have to kind of like split up its units. So that would cause a reason to micro, and that's kind of what they're trying to shoot for. So like, if you have 20 Void Rays that are all clumped up, and you cast it, they're gonna get like 20 times the damage. Say like, the damage over time might be 5 damage. So if there's 20 around, it's gonna do like 100 damage a second. So you're really not going to want to clump them up. So it'll give like a reason to micro. So that's my personal take on it. I think it's a pretty good idea. Okay, Faraz changes. Think about adding a new Faraz unit that they can get in the early game, that's used for harassment. They want it to have slow movement speed to differentiate it from other early game harassers. I guess like Zerglings and Reapers. But I don't know how slow movement speed is gonna really work out as an early game harasser. You want to get stuff in there quickly before wall offs and everything happen like that. So this might be a unit that you would make like a proxy gateway for or something. They're thinking about giving a phase shift ability, where the unit goes completely invulnerable for X amount of seconds on a short cooldown. So they could like run into your mineral line, and if you have an answer for them, they can just go phase shift and try to get out of there quickly or something like that, or do as much damage to the mineral line as possible. And then once phase shift is over, it just instantly dies or got away or something, but it's got a slow movement speed. I don't know. This is kind of a weird thing to me. I think making any unit invulnerable for any amount of time is not a good idea. Because people will just mass it, honestly. You can just mass up like 20 of them and just phase shift and kill a base if you wanted to. And you can't stop it. I think maybe reduce the damage on it, it might be okay. But yeah, they're still in the concept phase of this, so don't worry too much about that quite yet. Mothership Core's Photon Overcharge ability now hits both ground and air. They say that they changed this back because the resource changes hurt Protoss the most, so yeah, that's okay, I think. And a mortal barrier upgraded ability is now an upgrade, because having the warp prism drops for immortals, it was just too difficult to defend, without air units. So they're changing it as an upgrade for now. Yeah, I think that's the wise thing to do. And yeah, that's all the news I want to talk about today. You guys tell me what you think about all this news, and like, follow, and subscribe, and I'll get you more stuff like this when interesting news comes out in the future. And yeah, thanks for watching.